Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Sai. This is Yehuda Levin, and you were listening to our introduction. I was actually supposed to be in the studio live. I'm doing the program live, but I'm doing it via telephone because unfortunately my car is out of commission. So I just want to mention, if there's anybody who wants to donate a car, I'm looking for a small car. It could be an old car as long as it's drivable and you can get the tax deduction. Please contact me. You can reach me at rabbilevin@gmail.com. You can become a member of my WhatsApp by sending me a WhatsApp request, and you can contact me that way at 718-469-6999. This week we visited the Tzaddik Rav Avram Steinberg, who's in a nursing home in Brooklyn, about Yisurim for many years at Talmud Chochem with a Sefer Panim Yafis. And in the past, we did a kumzitz, and I put some of it onto the air. And we were singing Shlomo Kalbach's Niggin, Siman Tov Mazel Tov. And it suddenly popped into my head to sing the words, Rifa'enu Hashem v'nei Rafeh, which I think is very appropriate. And I would like this program to be a schus for all the Chol Yisrael, Kol Limi Marasi, Masha Basmatel, Ani Yehuda Halevi ben Masha, and a very chashuv woman whose name is Rivka Bas Chana Sora. Refuah Shalem B'Tov Shachol Yisrael. We all need refuahs and yeshuas. Individual people for health reasons, and really Klal Yisrael itself needs a tremendous refuah shalema because of what's been happening this past week. And it seems that every week is bringing new tragedies, new agmas nefesh, new aggravations. So I just want to say something about the tefillah of Rifa'enu. It says, Rifa'enu Hashem v'nei Rafeh, Hoshiyenu, give us salvation v'nivashei, and we should be saved, ki sihilasenu ota, because you are the focus of our exaltation. We exalt HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tehillah Likel Elyon. So one of the reasons the Chazal, the Knesset Gedolah, was musakin the tefillah of Rifa'enu, we give a reason to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we should merit a complete healing, in order that through our healing, through recovering our health, we should be able to, for long years, to be able to exalt HaKadosh Baruch Hu in prayer, which of course is what the Ramban says, the famous Ramban in the end of Boy, which I've quoted various times on this forum, that the purpose of the creation of the world is that we should get together in Batei Knesiyos and Batei Midrashos and to be Mefarsim Elikusai, to publicize God's monarchy over the world. And therefore, I think we're repeating an aspect of that in Rifa'enu Hashem v'nei Rafeh. So let us begin tonight's proceedings with your kind permission. I'm going to start with something that's, you wouldn't believe it, listening to Yehuda Levin, that might be considered a little provocative, and it might frustrate or annoy certain people. Let me assure you that it is not my purpose to antagonize or to insult or to annoy. This program is the thinking person's program. Unlike almost any other program on the radio, I believe that we dig into issues from a hashkafic perspective, and we help aid, direct people to thinking in more of a deep think into mazeh ve'al mazeh, why and what's behind things that are happening. So I had a conversation. First, let me give you this background. When I had my shul, Kilas Mavakshe Hashem, for a decade or so, we would have on a weekly basis, every Shalashudis, we had from the most chashuv of Bachrim in Crown Heights that would go talucha. They would walk from Crown Heights to our shul in Flatbush, and we would have a Shalashudis, and the Bachrim would say over from the Sicha from the Rebbe, and I would say over B'siyata D'Shmaya, my own Torah. And this went on for several years. On Simchas Torah, there would be a talucha, and we would have a big oilam from Lubavitch coming, and some very, very choshev senior members, Talmidei Chacham of Lubavitch. I remember one year we had a yid by the name of Rabbi Heller, who I understand is very choshev in Lubavitch, and was a direct descendant. Is a direct descendant of the Tosfos Yontif. He has the same name. So I don't want anybody to accuse me of being tarred and feathered as blanket, being opposed to anything about Lubavitch. I'm absolutely not opposed to anything about Lubavitch, but the same way I'm open-minded and critical about Satmar's Gemilas Chasodim and their upgrading of kashrus and their ruchnius, etc., is unbelievable. But I criticize Satmar in terms of their playing footsie with the Menuveldika politicians and turning the other cheek to immorality. Agudas Yisrael, led by the Moetzes Gedolei Torah, Askonim, that I believe work l'shem b'mayim, and 90% of what they do for Klal Yisrael is very, very worthy of appreciation, adulation, praise, etc. And I do. However, the 10% that has to do with morality and losing their way hashkafically in several other areas, which I will point out to you, I think that honesty calls to say this. And it's the same thing in Lubavitch. They do many tremendous things in terms of the Kiruv. Who hasn't been way out of town and had the benefit of the Hachnosas Orchim of a Chabad house? And you'll see in many places, you'll see Satmar Hasidim and everything eating their Shabbos in out-of-town places that are not, that there otherwise wouldn't be a Makam. And they are so personable and so nice and so kind and so giving and gewaldic. But when there are certain things that are happening, so for the betterment of Klal Yisrael and for the betterment of particular groups, we point out these things. And one of our operating adages is b'makom sheyesh chilul Hashem ein cholken kavod l'rav. There's a chiyuv of teichacha. There's a chiyuv of midoloi moicha oidi, a separate from teichacha. Teichacha means to give chastisement to improve. But what if you can't? So people say, well, if it's not going to improve, what are you doing it for? And I pointed out because there's another biblical imperative. The imperative of making a macha. And if it's not biblical, it's certainly rabbinic. And the Gemara speaks about the lack of macha and the tragic outcomes of a lack of macha. I think one of the reasons for the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash is for a lack of macha. So we try to do this. Now people say, Yehuda Levin, constant carping, criticism, grouching, etc., and therefore wise people have told me you lose the oilam. They're with you to a certain extent, and then when you go too far, or you're too critical on too many things, or you start to deduce so and so, such and such is happening, midah connected midah, people don't want to hear that from you, and therefore you lose them. So if you're trying to impact and change people, you should not include those final steps that you often include in your assessments and in your analysis. And I'm being told this by highly intelligent people, Talmidei Chachamim. So it's a dilemma. I no longer have the Rav Avigdor Miller to present this question to, where I could have received an answer in 1 minute flat. He would tell me exactly what to do. But for those of you who are followers of Rav Miller and who followed him and see now with tremendous resurgence, Gadol Tzadikim b'misosim Yosem b'chayehem, and you read almost verbatim the verbiage that he says in those booklets that come out by the Markowitz brothers that are so impressive and influence so much of Klal Yisrael, you see that Reb Miller was very, very hardcore. He was hardcore, and he said it like it is. And therefore, I believe that my Messiah is to follow that. Maybe I'm losing people because I'm so quote unquote right wing, so extreme, so etc. Maybe, but then I declare maybe my job is to tell it like it is. Some people will agree with me on my assessments of what I'm going to discuss tonight having to do with quote unquote combating anti-Semitism, diminishing anti-Semitism. Some might agree with me in the area when I rail against the luxus, what's called in Yiddish, the luxuries, the overkill of creature comforts, the hedonism, the narcissism, the ultra materialism. Some people might agree with that. Other people might understand and resonate. It might resonate with them what I'm speaking about in terms of voting and morality, etc. So maybe that's the mahalach. The mahalach is catch as catch can, meaning I put it out there. You want to take it, you take it. You want to dismiss me, disparage me. What can I do? I can only say I no longer have the people who I feel are enough in the sugya, the leaders that I can consult with. So unfortunately, at this late stage in my life, in my mid-60s, I have to fly by the seat of my pants and try to figure out what my rebbeim would say, what would they have done. And so I say this as a large introduction, and this introduction really applies to my program each and every week that people should understand. It's not that I'm anti-Agud or anti-Satmar or anti-Bobov or anti-Lubavitch. I'm pro them to such an extent that it pains me and it hurts me when they fall short in certain areas. And because it's politically incorrect to say this, and because unfortunately our leaders aren't saying this, so therefore one of the Hamoinam, one of the masses, B'toich Ami and Yeshev, as the Shunamis said, B'toich Yesheves, she said that to Elisha. So I say, B'toich Ami and Yeshev, we have to stand up and Makom Shein Ish, you got to stand up and say it. That was the lesson of Pinchas. And that's what we try to do. And I did have these job assignments, B'ksav and Balpeh, from many Gedolei Yisrael. So let me tell you something about Lubavitch. I speak to a young man in his mid-20s, and he tells me like this: Shach, Cutler. This is what he says. What did they do? They sit in the yeshivas and this and that. How can they compare to the Rebbe? First he tells me the Rebbe is the Nasi Doreinu. And he tells me the Rebbe is Mashiach. And he tells me, which is true, that a lot of people, Lubavitchers, who even don't say it out, but they believe the Rebbe is Mashiach. Now, I don't get involved in these things. If I was a purist, an altruist, I would say, this is mamish dangerous. I would say this is mamish dangerous. And we have to come out fully against this messianic thing and the dead Mashiach and coming back and all this stuff. I don't get involved in this. However, there's a certain amount of insularity, of inbreeding. Sometimes they say that when cousins repeatedly get married, so because there's insularity, inbreeding, it leads to problems, that children are born with birth defects, with serious birth defects. So this has happened in the Lubavitch movement to a certain extent. What do I mean? Recently, there was a video, and the video was a video that Rabbi Lau, the former chief rabbi of Israel, was telling over a Maisa about Rabbi Shach, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha. And he was telling over how Rabbi Shach, in his older years, called in a Rosh Yeshiva of a certain yeshiva and told him, I'm giving you money for this and this bocher who's not holding and learning. You should hire a top Ben Torah, Koil younger man, and you should learn with him an hour a day. And every week come to me to pick up the money. And do not mention to the bocher that I, Rav Shach, are giving the money. And this was a davar tamua. Why is Rav Shach interested in the one bacher in this particular yeshiva to do this for him. But you don't question the Gadol Hadar. And it went on like this. One time he came to pay the money. It was at the end of the week. And Rav Shach was at a meeting with various Askonim or Rabbonim, and the Shomrei HaPesach would not let in this Rosh Yeshiva to give Rav Shach the envelope. So we have to waiting over the money to receive the envelope from Rav Shach to pay the younger man. A little later, Erev Shabbos in the afternoon, I think it was, Rav Shach calls up the man. He says, "How you talking? I have the money already for you. You didn't come." The Rosh Yeshiva tells him, "I didn't come. I did come. They didn't let me in." Rav Shach goes, "Oh, they," and he felt so terrible. We made up that we're going to pay him once a week, and after paying, please come here immediately, even though it's Erev Shabbos, to get the money. So the man comes down to get the money. The Rosh Yeshiva comes down. And Rav Shach apologizes. He said, "I caused you an extra tircha, I caused you bittul Torah because you came down earlier today, and you came down for nothing. So I caused you bittul Torah. How can I pay you back?" So the Rosh Yeshiva hesitated, and he says, "I'm going to ask Rav Shach, v'yiras hakovid, why this particular bacha? Why you for interfering zich in this particular bacha?" And Rav Shach tells him the following ma'aseh. When I was a young bacha, maybe a teenager, I was learning in a certain city, a certain place. And Pashit, I couldn't afford, there was no dormitory in those days or anything, and I couldn't afford a bed in a estancia. So I used to take a board and I used to lay it down on a bench in the shul, and I slept in the bench, and I had a poultry thing for a blanket or something. You can imagine in those days, believe me, I don't think that they heated up the shul the whole winter, 24 hours a day that Rav Shach could sleep there. You understand? He said, I had one single shirt. He says, every Erev Shabbos, I would go down to the river, to the water there. I would scrub the shirt clean with a little soap that I got a hold of. I would put it on a rock until it dried out. I would wear it on Shabbos, and then the whole thing would repeat itself, the cycle. I would wear the one shirt. He says, one Erev Shabbos, I'm sitting there with the shirt on the rock, in my undershirt and tzitzis, I assume. And a lady from the town happens to come by, and she goes over to him and she says, "You're making a chilul Hashem." Rav Shach says, "Pardon me, what do you mean?" She says, "You're a bacha, a ben Torah, you represent Torah. Look at this shirt, it's such a shmata. I don't know if it was torn or it was dirt or whatever it was." She said, Rav Shach says, "What can I do? I only have one shirt. I don't have a penny to my name." A little while later, the lady comes back, and the lady gives him 2 shirts, one for Shabbos and one for the week. It seems Rav Shach came to Eretz Yisrael, and he was looking and searching to find remnants of the family. And he managed to locate, I don't know if they were killed out in the Holocaust, but he managed to locate that there's this bacher. This bacher is an anicle of the lady who did him a taiva. And so he found out the level of the bacher, and he decided that he has hakaras hatov to the grandmother, and he can't repay her, so he's going to repay the chesed of the 2 shirts, and he's going to turn this bacher into a ben Torah. This is a ma'aseh that's very inspiring. And to hear, it's kedai for us to hear the chak that Gedolei Yisrael used to learn Torah, and Rav Shach in particular. I remember as a Frisha Chosin, my Shana Rishon, we spent 8 months in Eretz Yisrael. It was in Tovshin Mem. We spent the Shabbos in Bnei Brak, and we watched the Stipler walking to shul. I believe it was then, if I'm not mistaken. And we also went in on Sunday to get a bracha for a shach. I'm telling you, we went up to the door. Excuse me for getting emotional. A young couple. I knocked on the door, and the Sar HaTorah, Gadol Yisrael, came to the door himself, invited us in for a minute or 2, told him that we're fresh chassan and kala just a few months. He made such a big issue about it. Uy, chassan and kala been dying from America. He gave us a bracha. This is what Rav Shach was. Now, Rav Shach felt big tightness on Lubavitch. He shared those tightness with the Brisker of Rav Aaron Kotler. These were strong people, and they spoke out strongly. We, peanuts, don't stick our heads in between in such areas. It's way above our pay grade. But when you hear this attitude that a 20-something bacha, who also got me emotional because he's a Yerush Shamayim, and he's speaking about how it pains him. The bacha speaks about how it pains him. Ivanka Trump, the lack of tznius, it pains him. He doesn't understand how a frum person could have been dating a non-Jew before she converted, and different things that he speaks about tznius and erlachai. He's a Yaakov, his family. He would want some of the relatives who are not from, but he gets into this whole thing. The Rebbe's in Nasi Adar, and look what he did. Nobody's done what he did. And shach. And I feel very bad. I tried to straighten him out. Why? Not because I'm way above two little yinglech fighting. My gadol is bigger than your gadol. My Rebbe is bigger than your Rebbe. Your Rebbe is a garnish. That's not the point. The point is that when I see a tighter person, and the Yerush Shamayim, the Ovid, but he's brainwashed in a certain thing. Somebody attacked. So we made a piece of garbage out of him. Shach, Kotler. Unbelievable. So I just want to explain something. Besides, anybody who hears this Maisa, that Rav Shach realizes you're talking about an Adam Gadol, whether you like him or you appreciate him, or you're upset that he's fighting with your Rebbe or not. You got to be open-minded. The second thing is, let's talk Turkey. Has Lubavitch accomplished a tremendous amount with Kiev Rechaikin? I think so. But what are the real numbers? Rabbi say, what are the real numbers? Meaning, there are 1,500 shluchim or whatever it is. It's Oim V'Nora, the Mesiras Nefesh, and what they do and everything else. My hats are off to them, believe me. But, I've been to some of these places that are operating for 10, 20, 30 years. How many people have they made from Yidden? Mamish from Yidden in these out-of-town places. How many are there from? I'm sure there are hundreds. I'm sure that there are several thousand. But a lot of these places, it's very little. They've made people come closer. They made people sympathetic. They've made people donors. And in many of the cases, and in most of the cases when they did make them from, they made them Lubavitchers, not stam from Yidden. Okay, but let's keep it in perspective. Now let's look at just to give an example, let's look at the Levaya of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which I attended. How many people were there? 10,000? 20,000? How many people were there? How many people were at the Levaya of Rav Shach? Hundreds of thousands of people. Rav Eliashiv, hundreds of thousands of people. Rav Avadia Yosef, somewhere between 3/4 to 1 million people, they say. So what did Rav Shach do? The guy says to me. Rav Shach sat in his corner. He learned to get sure and punish. See, it's ambaratus. It's in ignorance and ignorance. He was the top gadol that all of the Agudas Yisrael Gedolim in America were machniya to, and the Agudas Yisrael Gedolim in Eretz Yisrael. Who started the Shas party, which helped Rav Avadia Yosef immeasurably in the tremendous revolution of Sephardic B'nai Torah that are thousands strong? Who helped in this area, if not Rav Shach? Rav Shach did. He gets a credit. And in terms of being made in Keren Torah and sitting there, let's talk about the Baal Tshuva movement of Eish and Arsh Meach, etc., etc. Let's talk about the Chavetz Chaim Yeshiva of Queens that has sent out so many people. So they have different yeshivas in different parts of the world, in different parts of America, and so many Chavetz Chaim graduates. My father amongst them was from the very first Talmidim of Rav Henoch Leibowitz, who 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 um who appointed Rav Henoch Leibowitz the Rosh Yeshiva when he was a young man? When his father died, he was in his low 20s at the most, etc. And who are the people like Rav Henoch Leibowitz would turn to, if not Rav Aaron Kotler and Rav Shach? See, even there the influence held. So if you're going to start to really count Bali Tshuva, you're going to start to count the myriads of B'nai Torah. The people that they refer to as Kotler and Shach are responsible. And their net was porous, was spread out way past the Litvisha Olam. There is no Litvisha Olam. 95% or more of Litvisha were killed out. My father's parents came here before the war, before World War I. They were 100% Litvak. So my father, born in America, is 100% Litvak. It's a Yakara Metzias that I'm 50% Litvish. A Litvish is largely, they call Litvish and Misnagdim, the Yeshivas of Welt is largely Hungarians and Polish with very few real Litvisha. But the whole Kollel movement, the fact that Satmar has Kollelim today, that Hasidic groups have Kollel, who is this due to, if not the Rav Shachs and Rav Kotlers? So my advice is, you want to stand up for the covenant of your Rebbe, etc., but to deprecate Gedol Yisrael and to make yourself foolish and blind to the obvious numerical, statistical accomplishments that they had, it's very, very sad. I spent a lot of time in this, and I hope to learn my Yotzim and Alev, Nichnasim El Halev. I really hope so. Now let's move on to the next issue. I put out a Satmar Golden Oldie. It's a tape, it's a video that I saw, and I put it out on the WhatsApp, and you can become members of the WhatsApp chat on 718-469-6999 if you send me a request via WhatsApp to 718-469-6999. You can become a member and get this information. Many interesting things during the course of the week. So this video shows Mario Cuomo. I don't know if he was Attorney General then, whatever he was running the first time for governor. And he comes to Rav Zalman Leib. And you see it on the video. And the 5-minute video, Cuomo was saying how much his father did and how much he did as a Secretary of HUD for housing, for Curious Joel, or this and that. I think it was Rav Zalman Leib. Maybe it was the other brother. Maybe it was actually the other brother. I'm not sure. And then he speaks a few times. The Rebbe asks him about TAP, Geld and Geld. And this is the thing, as I said in the previous weeks, is Amalek is only the youngest in Eretz Yisrael? What about that he didn't say a word to Cuomo then when he was running for office? And this was when Cuomo was pledging that he was going to make the Mishkav Zocha marriage business. He was pledging. And this ignorance is no excuse. Torah Hashem Machkim is Pesi. You're going to tell me the Rebbes are so shielded, they're so inured, they're so naive that they don't know all the immorality that's going on. Unlike when I met Rev Levin, the Rosh Yeshiva tells in the story that I've told over, and that his own son, Ephraim Mordechai, Yibad L'chaim, told over at the Shloshim for his father at the Torah Survey that went all around the world, had a brother who saw it in China. When he was in China for Hashgacha, he saw this video. And when I asked Rev Chaim Levin, Avram Chaim Levin, do you know what they're doing on this morality? You know that? He said, we know. Of course they know. And I don't believe the Satmar Rebbe doesn't know. It's a conscious decision. And therefore, it's sad. That's why now, 8 or 10 years later, or whatever it is, we're going to Eretz Yisrael, we're fighting Zionis, Givaldik, Amalek, but what about the Amalek in our backyard? The double standard. It's very, very sad. Reb Moshe Shapiro, Zecher Tzadik v'Kodesh L'Vracha. Reb Moshe Shapiro, tremendous Bal Machshava, and I recently received I found a sefer that I purchased called Shuvi V'Nechazeh of his Torahs on Chanukah and Purim. The first Torah, it's a mind blower. He asks on this week's Kasha that it seems that the Chazal had kindness on Yaakov Avinu that he was giving over, and the Svarim speak about, he was giving over the matana that he gave over to Esav. And he's criticized. He's criticized in the Chazal. It's called grabbing onto Oznei HaKelev. You grab on, you twist if I understand correctly, you twist the ear of the dog, and then the dog gets enraged and he chatters with you. So the question is, why did the Chazal seem to have a problem with Yaakov Avinu that Yaakov Avinu was sending him matana to Esav? Why didn't he just leave Esav? What do you mean? He was afraid Esav was going to come and kill him. So he explains to us, Rav Moshe Shapiro, that there are two levels of what is supposed to be accomplished in the world. And the other level, one level is what Klal Yisrael does, and the other level is and then there's Efes Biltecha Ge'aleinu Limoisa Mashiach, that there's going to be a clarity of Efes Biltecha in the Yemoisa Mashiach. And that's a separate job. And that Efes Biltecha has to come specifically by being worked out, by eschewing bad stuff and coming to a level that everybody should realize. And he quotes the famous Rambam that was censored, that we didn't have for many years, that you have, that the reason for a Gentile Messiah and a reason for the founding of the Muslim religion, the reason for this is to acclimate the populace of the world, that one day there's going to be that concept of Mashiach and that concept of Efes Biltecha. So Rav Moshe Shapiro says a fascinating thing. He brings out from sources that Golus Yavin of Hanukkah was supposed to be the last Golus. And the only reason there's another Golus of Edom is because the Jews themselves brought the Edomites, the Romans, in to help defeat the Greeks. And by doing that, they prolonged and they caused the fourth shlav of the Golus of Edom. And he explains that Yitzchak's bracha to Esav was to help Esav do the Efes Biltecha. And he explains that although the Svarim say that the son of Yaakov represented the 600 nefashos, 1,000 nefashos, Shishim Ribim nefashos of Klal Yisrael, by giving over some of the son to Esav, you in effect diminishing and giving over an aspect, a part, so to speak, of Klal Yisrael. And this was a taina that they had in Yaakov. But Rav Moshe explains that although the Chazal have a taina on Yaakov, but Yaakov had a method to what he was doing. He had a logic. And his logic was to prepare the Efes Biltecha, and Edom is associated with the fact that Oisha Ish becomes in Rome and converts them to their religion, etc., which is a bit of, it's based on, it's modeled in part upon us, and it's leading to the Efes Biltecha. These are fascinating things that Rav Moshe Shavir says. But I think that one of the things that he doesn't say clearly, but I think that we can certainly surmise this, is the concept, is the idea that that in history, a lot of the negative things that happen, the destructive things that impact on Klal Yisrael, they evince, they emote, they come out from us. Because Osaya Ish came out from us. And the founder of the Muslim religion, we know, if you hear the Shulman of Shlomo Rottenberg and others, it's a historic fact that he worked in the house of a Jew for many, many years. And a lot of the things that he picked up were basics of Yiddishkeit. And he was bringing pagans a high step up. In other words, but maybe to a certain extent, I don't know, I'm saying b'derech efsher, maybe the fact that these things happen, like the son of Yaakov that gave this to Edom, etc., part of what that did was, in the process of preparing for the Efes Biltecha, there's also a du partsufim. There is two sides of the coin, that there may just be machrivayich me'asach mimeich yetzeyu. Now, why am I saying this now? In other words, the Yisoid that we have the Golus Edom, the last 2,000 years, and that we didn't finish everything up with Yovan. Remember, the Bnei Yissaschar quotes the Arizal that Chanukah is the final mitzvah derabanan. It's mashlam the keser, 620 mitzvahs, 613 taryag, and 7 derabanan. And there was 630 oisias, 620 oisias in the Aseret Sedivros. So it makes sense, this concept that Hanukkah should have been the end all, the catch-all, this last 2,000 years, all the suffering and everything else. It comes in part because of us. We invited in Edom. I want to say, by the way, that the tefillah that Yaakov said, "Hatzileni no miyad ochi miyad Esav," save me from my brother Esav. And the famous Beis Halevi we all know, when Esav will act to us at a certain point in the Golus, which we might be reflecting now, that now we've gotten rights, we're emancipated, etc. The society is progressive and over-prepared. Officially, so now we're buddies in many cases with Esav. We're rubbing shoulders. So Yaakov is praying the danger of the last part of Golus Edom, where there's fraternal relations between Edom, Esav, and Klal Yisrael. That has its own dangers. And I want to say maybe we can add a little to that Beis Halevi and say that the fraternity that we have leads to that aspect of Esav, that we have that bridge in a certain way through the sign. It also had another deleterious effect. Not just that Esav should beat up on us or this or that, etc., but also he should fraternize with us. Yaakov felt he had to do it. He had to do it for Efes Poltecha. And as Ramesh Shapiro said, that was Yaakov's avodah. It's not for us. But we have to realize the Makrivai from our side. We have to realize this. And how does that impact on us? Let me see Rabbi's side. What does this have to do with us? I'll tell you one of the things that has to do with us. We just went through a tremendous tragedy. A tremendous tragedy. By the way, in Eretz Yisrael, one Bacher Landi, Zechrono Levracha, was killed in a tragic car accident. Another Bacher, I don't know where he's holding, but he was definitely in serious position, in a serious situation. He should have a Shalema. A Yid was confronted with a gun in Borough Park. All the last week, a child, Epis has lost consciousness, a baby in Eretz Yisrael, from baby. And of course, the terrible tragedy of the people killed. A Taira Bacha, 24 years old, a Bal Chesed, it writes the heart. It rips our hearts away. We see the videos. And it's just Shiva said on him, he knew every Shach and Taz in the first Chelik of Yeridea, a tremendous Talmud Chacham, in addition to a Bal Chesed, a superior person, a Torah with Chesed together in an unbelievable way. And this mother, a mother of 5 children, who was doing so much for that community in Jersey City. And like the Gemara in Megillah says, they were giving sustenance. Megillah is read on a separate day because the people, the grocers, were providing sustenance. She obviously a tremendously superior person to rise the hearts what's going on. So now you have statements from Agudas Yisrael, you have statements from Satmar, from UJO, you have Rabbi Niederman speaking. And I'm sorry to say, he turns to Bill de Blasio and he says, Mr. Mayor, we have to have the government, state, federal, municipal doing things to stop the hate, because hate impacts everybody. It starts with us, it's going to impact everybody. That's, by the way, not necessarily true when Chazal said, B'yadua, she'esav soyla liyakov. When the Chazal say, and Har Sinai, shemisam yorat sinna to Klal Yisrael because of the Torah, the higher level of responsibility. Don't tell me that because of that hate, that's why everybody's hating each other. What are you speaking this politically correct claptrap? You're trying to say what Pastor Niemöller said. First, they came for the communists, I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the union workers, I wasn't a union worker. Then they came for the Jews, I wasn't a Jew. Then finally they came for me. It's all very nice. By the way, he was a communist himself, Niemöller. Leave that alone. This is not our hashkafa. And if you want to say politically correct because it plays to the Gentile community, we get too caught up. You really believe that because there's Holocaust studies and everything else, this is what reduces anti-Semitism? The time-honored things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, HaKol Kol Yaakov Eni Yadayim Yidei Esav, and Misham Yer Sinna, and every time we try to get too much Hatzileinu Miyad Ochim Miyad Esav, we get too Panya Bra, we get too secure that there's an anti-Semitic backlash. That goes by the wayside now. L'man Hashem, what's going on here? Couldn't Rabbi Niederman have said, and what Rabbi Shua said is correct, the Askanim were running the show. What would have been so terrible? You know, with all due respect, Andrew Cuomo was talking to the Rebbe in that video, and the Rebbe's talking Yiddish, and they're translating the Cuomo, Vusim mit the tap. What kind of a game is this? Respectfully, with all due respect, I mean, there's a certain good. It's good psychologically, a status that Cuomo realizes he's different. He's talking Yiddish, and therefore Cuomo has to be a little bit more subservient, the face of obsequious, even though he laughs at us. You understand? Good, so maybe it's a cheshbon, but that cheshbon doesn't apply here. How much more effective would it be if the Rebbe would have stood in front of the Satmar Shul in the King's English, which he speaks, and he would have said, we are pleading with the government to do whatever they can to help reduce the fear that we feel that these are, we feel almost like the Jews felt in the 1930s in Europe. We see dark shadows of ever-increasing anti-Semitism. We plead to government, we plead to people on all levels. Let's get along. Let's see what we can do to stop this. However, we in the Jewish community realize that God is sending us a message that we have to look inward and be introspective. It would be a Kiddush Hashem le'enei hagoyim that the Jews should speak the time-honored stuff. But just to say the politically correct stuff, it's already almost a week after, it's days after, I should say, not a week, it's a days after this thing. There should be a calls for a half a day kindness in all the communities. There should be ma'aseh likin. There should be tremendous amounts of introspection and doing tshuva and making kabbalas. And by the way, I believe Hashem multitasks. So when somebody says the reason kach happened is only because of this reason, if they say that, that's very scary. You're there talumos, so we don't know talumos. My brother said to me, if we live for 2,000 years, we wouldn't know the cheshbonos of Hashem. But on the other hand, the Rambam says when a tragedy happens, we're supposed to be introspective. We're supposed to try to figure out why. So there's a happy medium over here. The happy medium is we might not know ultimately, but we certainly know that we have to improve in X, Y, Z. The person who feels they have to improve in davening and davening, in chesed and chesed, in learning about and learning, in morality and morality, in sneers and sneers. Rabbi Sai, let's wake up, let's get with it. So let us realize a little bit in terms of the anti-Semitism. Ultimately, it's similar to the Yavin should have been the last Golas, but it's not the last Golas. Adam is the last Golas. And we are coming too comfortable. What's happening? At the self-same time, all the tragedies we've seen internationally just in this week, in the course of a few days. The tremendous, what's happening? There's an advertisement for a yeshiva break between January 22nd and February. Come to South Africa on a safari, a wonderful thing you'll never forget. Shabbos in Johannesburg with a chazan and singing and the kumbaya and zitzin and tremendous gourmet foods and a safari and trips, and it's only $5,000 a person. Does HaKadosh Baruch Hu have nachas from this craziness? When a frugal lady, a grandmother and a mother tells me that her 13-year-old daughter says, other girls have a winter coat called a Montclair winter coat. It's $500. And various girls have it. The parents who are doing this, even if they can afford it, I really think they're going to have to give it din b'cheshbon. And what about the people who are not professionals, who are not big businessmen? You're making such a thing a standard that 13-year-old twerpy girls, and nobody's teaching them about narcissism and hedonism and materialism. And what about the Gemara that says before you pray for kach, you should pray. There shouldn't be too many luxurious foods in your stomach. Every week, they're adding 15 different types of candies. There's taco chips with all kinds of spices, and this one and that one and that one. These are kleinigkeiten, but the cumulative effect leads to $5,000 a ticket in South Africa. Haben wir gefallen off a cup? Are we falling on our heads? And then, if you're not going to get me money, the month clear coat, winter coat for $500, then they're wearing a certain brand, I don't remember the name, of sweatshirts. That's only $170. Rabbi say we are hurtling south so far. It's unbelievable. And this is this is what it's about. This is a lesson that we have to take away from Hanukkah, to stop doing this to ourselves. Rabbi say we have to understand the extent to which everything really evolves around us. That's really the meaning. Everything is a message to us. And when things happen, that's why Ruchatzke Levenstein was crying when he heard one day in Vietnam that many Gentile soldiers were killed. It is also us. It's a message to us on various levels, whatever the derivative was. But sometimes the derivatives are much more close to home. Let's take the election between Trump and Hillary. Okay, so Trump got in. Financially, the country is doing much better. In the Black and Latino community, there's growing support. I mean, it's nowhere near 50%, but it's growing support for Trump, despite them calling him a racist and this and that. They're doing better. And society as a whole is doing better in the economy, in jobs, etc., etc. I'm not here to be a supporter of Trump. Adarabba, you know what Trump did this week? What Trump did this week is his campaign is now promoting MAGA hats that say on it rainbow colored for Trump, and they promote it with ties to do something to support Trump and the Hashchasa community. You understand? That's what they're doing, Hashchasa community. So Trump is far from a malach. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I believe, saw what was going on, and not saw. Hashem is more than saw. Hashem dawned up that he's giving us another chance. So Trump came in, and he's gewaldic on pro-life. On Hashchasa, he's very much a mixed bag. He just recently put a guy on the Ninth Circuit that passed the Senate, and this guy is an open Mishkav Zochanik, and he belongs to a group that's advocating for all kinds of chazarai that runs counter and that's going to eventually hurt the religious, that is, if they get their goal, hurting the religious community. And this is not the first judge. He also had a same-gender married woman judge, and he made ambassadors, and he spoke at the UN to say that we have to enforce and compel other countries who have laws against Mishkav Zocha to change those laws. So the way I look at it is like this: the Mistafina, Lule Zachinu, if we would be Zocha, so Trump would have been 100% good. Like this, he's good. He's still against certain elements of the Equality Act, which would kill us. He's sort of, to a certain extent, against imposing transgendered lockers and bathrooms that Obama did in the public schools. So he's mensa, he's mechza. Where is he stark? Where is he strong? On abortion, he's strong. And it's very interesting. Look at the tale of two cities, the two parts of the two sides of the coin. In Kentucky, the Supreme Court of the United States refused to hear and thus upheld a Kentucky law that any woman getting an abortion in Kentucky has to see an ultrasound so she can see the baby moving around, etc., etc. Maybe it will persuade her not to ratzka her baby. That's a positive sign. And these things are happening in the Midwest and in the South, gewaldic. At the same time, where Kalish voted absent, only because of the pressure of Rabbi First and everything else. We voted absent in Illinois. They made a Ritzicha bill that even after the baby's born, you can withhold medical help. And the same thing in New York. And these are the places where the Yidden are stronger. It's machrivayach mehesach mimayach. maybe it's possible to say a svara that Trump would have been good on the morality issue, even if his personal misbehavior, even if he's a hypocrite, even if he would have had babies out of wedlock and he aborted them, waste. But now he's strongly pro-life because he realizes where his bread is buttered. And if we would be doing the things we're supposed to be doing for the last 40 years, then Nela, HaKadosh Baruch Hu probably would have given us a Trump that would have been better on these moral issues. I think that might be, I'm putting out there for the Talmidei Chachamim, for the Hashkafistas, the Bali Machshava, to think maybe this is the extent of Makrivayach Mehasayach Mimeich Yetzeyu. I want to say again, I really, really could use help. There are people who donate their cars to different organizations. I can get to a tax deduction. I'm looking for a small car. It could be an old car as long as it drives. And it could be a tremendous chesed to me. And you can contact me versus at rabbi11@gmail or at rabbi at my WhatsApp. You can WhatsApp me to become a member of the WhatsApp of the chat. Or WhatsApp me at 718-469-6999. Let's go further on this anti-Semitism thing. There's a fascinating article on page 8 of this week's Jewish Press. It's Kedai, if you can't see it on the internet, which you probably could, but if not, you should buy the paper for this. It's written by a Dr. Bruce Abramson, who has tremendous credentials. I wonder if he's from or not. He writes, the Jew coup. You know that I want to give credit to Rev Brudny. Rev Brudny was speaking, addressing the Aguda Convention several weeks ago, and he spoke out about this, that a guy, a Pastor Wiles, spoke about a Jew coup, that Nadler and Schumer and Schiff, and then a whole bunch of Jewish lawyers, Goldman and Noah Feldman and Tyler Carlin and Michael Gerhardt, they're all Jewish. And Rabbi Brudny, Rav Brudny, the newest member of the Motzei Gedolei Torah, Rosh Yeshiva Nemir, spoke out. It was a chiddush. It was kimayim chayim al nefesh hayefa. It was like living waters on a parched soul. This is such a refreshing thing. I almost am choshed that the Askanim and the other people in Aguda, the bureaucrats, had no idea he was going to say this. He actually alluded, without the name, to the senator of New York, the powerful senator of New York, to the congressman in New York, Nadler, who represents Borough Park, who represents the Orthos. When do we see such a thing? These are Mashiach zeichen, Yashir Koyach, Chelich L'Raisa, Rev Brudny. And I wish that people would inform Rev Brudny about 801A and the extent to which the thing behind the chinuch is also the hashkasa. And how this should be the first sign that Aguda is taka taking this on. But what Bruce Abramson says is here, he's saying in a beautifully well-crafted op-ed, that this is being going tremendous anti-Semitism, that 61 million people voted for Trump, and they see a lot of them, the phoniness. Trump is going up in the polls now. He's winning in the battleground states against all these Bidens and Schmeidens and this and that. He's winning right now. And people see who is making these fallacious stuff. It's the Jews. And so far, there hasn't been statements from the Orthodox Jewish organizations disassociating themselves totally. This is an attack not only on the man, Trump, but it's an attack on the office of the presidency. We might not have liked Obama, but we would have never acted with the chutzpah and the disparagement against Obama that they're acting against Trump, these Jews. It's important. And if people agree with me, and there are some people who want to do something about this, we are going to schedule doing something publicly about this thing, to say Yodeinu lo yishafchu, that we disassociate ourselves. And I urge you to contact me on the WhatsApp or on the email if you want to be a part of this Kiddush Hashem. We are going to do something around Hanukkah, the beginning of Hanukkah. And we want some people to stand with us. And you should contact me at WhatsApp 718-469-6999 or rabbi11@gmail.com, and we will do something about this. Rabbi say there's a lot more to speak about. We're going to speak about Agudas Yisrael's convention. We still didn't address all of that. There are many things. Please spread the word about this program. Become a shutef, and if there's any way you can contribute, Thank you very much.